I remember it like yesterday when Matt came down the stairs and said so casually with a smile, I booked a one-way ticket to Santiago, Chile. I thought to myself, is this real? Can we really leave our amazing careers, friends, and family? Fast forward 10 months later, after all the hard conversations, endless checklists, and heartfelt goodbyes, we were heading to the airport with one backpack each, about to set out for a multi-year adventure around the world. Filled with excitement, we had no idea what to expect, but we knew it would be a fun ride. Join us as we share what we are learning on our journey of a lifetime. This is Passport Joy Travel Talk with Nikki and Matt Javitt.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in today. Really appreciate it. This is Matt Javitt alongside Nikki Javitt. We are the couple that's been traveling the world full-time for 16 months now. We're documenting our journey on this podcast and also on our website, passportjoy.com, in the hopes that we can make traveling easier for you and others in some way, whether it's just an epic weekend getaway or a week-long vacation or long-term travel, if that's what you're looking to do, like Nikki and I have done now for a while. We are sitting in a Airbnb in Bucharest, Romania, where we're going to be here for about 8 days before we head off to Poland. And we just wrapped up our stay in Lisbon, and that's what we're going to talk about today. This is the second time we've been to Lisbon, and we just love it there. And we're going to get into kind of some of the stories on why we love it so much, and the people and the places. So check that out. If you're just getting caught up to speed on the podcast, like I said, we've been traveling for 16 months now. To make it easier, you can always go to the Journey So Far tab on our website, and it breaks down month by month where we've gone and what we've liked about those locations. And it also has the links to the other places on the website that has more details of those locations. It's the Journey So Far tab. It's at the very top. You can check that out. And in case you break away before the end, please sign up for the newsletter while you're there at passportjoy.com. We send out weekly highlights on Thursdays of everything that we've done during the week, what's coming up, and it gives you a chance to read about the things that might not necessarily come up in the podcast, highlights and things that we find interesting or I find interesting as we're going around the world and checking things out. You'll hear my voice is kind of going away a little bit. You might hear that as well in the podcast itself, but bear with it. I think I had a little bit too much fun in Lisbon, and it caught up with me in Bucharest today. But that's it. Hope you have a blast listening to this podcast. We really enjoyed it. And also the second part, after we talk about Lisbon, we talk about sharing tables at restaurants. The idea that a restaurant might be packed, but you've got two people at a foretop, so there's two spots open. Do you join them? Do you join them at their table? And if they're up for it, and then you share a meal with two people that you might not know. We get into that on the second part of the podcast. So stick around for that and listen to that. And enjoy.
Obrigada por escutar.
Thank you for listening. We're talking about Lisboa or Lisbon. The locals call Lisboa. We love this city so much. This was our second time in this city for an extended period of time. And the reason we had come back, we had our friend, my buddy Chris, reached out a couple months before his European travels. They were going to go to Spain and Portugal. And he was asking for a little bit of advice. And then also saying, is there a chance we can link up? And I told him based on his timing, he was going to be in the area at the perfect time because of the June festivities in Lisbon and Portugal. We'll get into that a little bit further. And then we had a friend from Ireland. So Nikki and I were coming from Ireland. Nikki was staying with our friend Talia in Ireland, and she wanted to go to Lisbon as well for the weekend. So we timed it where I got there on a Monday, Nikki arrived on Wednesday, other friend arrived on Friday, and then because of some other friends we had in town, we had a chance to catch up with them. And then we also had another travel buddy that lives in Lisbon as well. So it was just a great week for us to be able to catch up with a lot of people that we haven't seen in quite some time. I'm going to start off by talking about last year's journey. So when we got there last year, we were coming from South America, where we had been in South America for 3.5 months. And Lisbon was our first touch point in Europe during that stay. And it was in early June. And we really had no idea. We were pretty flexible in our plans. We were trying to stay open once we got to Europe. We knew we were going to stay in Southern Europe, but we didn't have concrete plans. So originally we had booked an Airbnb for 3 days in Lisbon, in the historic part of Lisbon called Sao Bento. It was a great Airbnb and we loved it. As soon as you get to Lisbon, you see how you get narrow, hilly cobblestone streets, colorful buildings, cable cars, local vendors on the street corners, huge cathedrals, awesome restaurants and bars and pastry shops. And then this is on the ocean. A lot of people compare it to San Francisco because the hilliness, it's romantic. It's a gorgeous city. So as soon as you get there and you're walking on the streets, you understand how amazing this place is. So we were there for about 2 days in. We begin to hear, and we get over the jet lag. We're discovering the city, and we're talking to a lot of locals, and they're saying, oh my God, you picked the best time to be here. Are you staying for the June festivities? And we had no idea what they were talking about. But the different vendors we'd go to, they would all say the same thing. And then we begin to see the different posters around town. And we understood that it is going to be the best time to be in Portugal. So we changed our plans. We were hoping to go north, probably to go to Porto and go to north into Spain along that coast. But we just decided that we're going to spend the next 2.5 weeks in Lisbon to celebrate with the locals this once in a lifetime celebration. So I began to do a Airbnb search, and everything was pretty well booked up within our price range. We had a certain price range we wanted to hit. I think at that time it was probably under $35 or so US. But one property popped up in Bica, and Bica ended up being one of the coolest neighborhoods in Lisbon for these festivities. And it really is just, it's a cute, cool, just awesome neighborhood. They've got the train car that goes through it, and it's just an amazing place to be. But one popped up there within our price range, but it had 0 reviews on it. And that's typically a red flag that I don't mess with, but it's kind of an Airbnb search tip for you that use Airbnb often. Don't be turned off by that. Make sure you click on the host profile or the manager profile. And sure enough, I clicked on it, and my man Samuel, he had about, I don't even know, it was like 700 reviews, something crazy, where he had many, many properties. He had, I think, 10 to 15 properties or whatever. So this guy knew what he's doing, and he had great reviews, and he was an excellent host. So once I knew that he was a solid host, that this place just didn't have any reviews, I just sent him over a note and said, hey man, can we meet? I'm 6'6". I don't know if I'm going to fit in this bed, because he had like 4 horrible photos on there. And what ended up being was he had just bought it. He was flipping it, and it wasn't ready to be lived in yet. But based on our timing, we could walk in there on, I think it was like a Tuesday that we were trying to get into. So we met him on Sunday, walked us through it, and we were like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. It was right on the street where there was going to be a lot of festivities. And we ended up just doing a deal there to lock in the next 2.5 weeks. And it was awesome. So make sure you do look at your host a little bit further on that. So we're there. We're in the heart of Bica, right? That's kind of on this hill. The street's not on a hill. The streets are flat, but the Bica area is like this big long hill where the trains go through. And the vibe, you can just feel the vibe on Tuesday, and it's building up to an epic weekend festivities where everybody's telling us, get ready for Friday, get ready for Friday. And we had no idea what that meant, but sure enough, they were right, because you could see the transformation of the streets throughout the week. Basically, what they do is there's, I guess, 3 to 5 story apartment buildings along these skinny cobblestone, basically maybe fit 1 car on these different side streets. But during the time of the festivities, they block off the street so no cars can come in. And then the people that own the apartments, or they bid them out to other local businesses, they begin to build pop-up bars and restaurants in front of these residential area. So you've got people that are pounding away on boards, building their own place of business to sell different things. A lot of it is the same thing. A lot of it's just draft beer with some mixed alcohol, sardines, which is a big deal during this time of the year, sangria, and basically beef sandwiches. Just simple stuff that they can make quickly on a grill, turn it and sell it, and make sure everybody's just partying and having a good time. And then they build out the lights on the street. So these awesome lights and decor and a lot of colors. And then there's different music blasting from probably like every 4 or 5, basically every block, and maybe has 2 different people blasting music. So you feel the different music going on along the street, but it all transforms in front of you in Bica as you're there during the week. We were lucky enough to be able to see this. I actually taped it. I taped it from like 1 p.m., 5 p.m., 9 p.m., and then like midnight and 3 a.m. So you can see this. I'll put a link on the show notes on YouTube that I kind of go through the transformation, and you can see the people building it, and then gradually a party, and then a super crazy nutty party at like 3 or 4 in the morning. Because a lot of the big nights, especially the St. Anthony's Festival, which St. Anthony's Day is June 13th in Lisbon, but the celebration is on the 12th because they have the 13th off. And then Portugal Day is the 10th. So those are big party days in this month of partying. Those are two of the biggest, and that's when a lot of this stuff happens. So we're there, we're in it, we're having a blast, we're taking advantage of the day by walking around seeing this amazing city because there's so much to see. And we're going to get into more of that details here shortly, but kind of just paint this picture. And we're walking through the neighborhoods, enjoying the 8 streets or so that are in Bika and the parties that are going on, enjoying the local beer, hanging out with people, starting to get to know people on our street. So as they were building out our street, I had a chance to go outside and kind of help build out some things as well with a couple of locals. Because I'm tall, I helped like put up some lights and stuff like that at the height that they needed help with. So I got friendships quickly early on in the week. And then through that, I would see these guys every day, ask them if they needed help, and kind of just was trying to become as part of the neighborhood as we could because we knew it was going to be a celebration. And by the way, so our apartment that we got was on it would be the 2nd floor. So our apartment didn't walk out to the street, but we were one floor above that. So our balcony was over the street and wasn't that far up. I could, with my height, I could probably reach up and touch our balcony floor, but it was high enough that people couldn't mess with our balcony level, but that we were still right in the action. And then, so we just enjoyed it. So mostly Nikki and I just walked around, and Thursday got active, Friday got really active, and then it was pretty crazy. And then Saturday, after we partied pretty well on Friday night, Saturday we were kind of just thinking, how do we get to become part of this action? And those that know me, I like to sell. I was a salesperson in my career, basically all my professional career. I've sold something, but it's just fun for me to find a way to be a part of the action. So I asked Nikki, I'm like, what thoughts do you have? What can we do? Is there anything you think we can sell? And she said Jello shots, which ended up being genius because it was really easy to find a way to build out Jello shots, and our investment was minimal. So we got all this stuff for the Jello shots, and we walked around the neighborhood, got these empty boxes so we could write signage on the empty boxes for our Jello shots. And we made these cute signs. Nikki, by the way, has amazing handwriting and penmanship. It's next level. Font de Nikki. She's freaking, it's nuts how good she can do. So I knew I had that in my back pocket. No matter what, she could build out some good signage, some good marketing so we can get some foot traffic. And she did amazing. And we got color markers. So here was the strategic key for me, I think. Of everything, I think it was the bucket. So I got a bucket that was less than €2 from a local hardware store, and I got the rope for free. So I got this rope and a bucket, knowing that I had to deliver these Jello shots from the 2nd floor to people below us, and I just knew that the bucket would gain attention. So I think that was our marketing. And then Nikki thinks it was the signage. But so here we are. We got the buckets. I go make all these Jello shots, get all the liquor and everything. We make about 150 Jello shots. And we got all these in the fridge. And they're ready to roll. And we're fully ready to sell Jello shots off our balcony. And so we walk around the neighborhood more. It's Saturday night. We walk around the neighborhood around 10 and just check it all out. Again, the vibe's just nuts. It's just chaos. And by the time we get home, I have probably a few beers in, and I just felt like we could do it. I felt like we could pull it off. My biggest fear was the idea that the neighborhood, the locals, would be pissed that I would tap into some of their finances. But in my head, I was thinking that, man, if I can get people a little bit drunker with the shots, and there was nobody else selling Jello shots. So it wasn't like I was tapping into their draft beer or something like that. So my thought is if I can get them a little drunker, maybe I help them sell a little bit more. So regardless, I was nervous about that. Even though I had these friendships already in the neighborhood, I was spending money in the neighborhood already because I was making sure when we were buying beer, food, we would definitely buy it from the people on our street. So I was a little bit nervous about that, but my gut told me that these people were cool enough that we could pull this off. So we went up around midnight. It was about midnight, and we got the signage ready, and then we had the shots, we had everything ready. And I put out the sign that said €2 Jello shots. And these were big Jello shots. They're huge. They're double shots. And as I was putting out the sign, my buddy Nelson, he was part of the bar he was part of one of these pop-up bars that was right directly across from us. He looked up, saw what I was doing, and kind of gave me a thumbs up. And then he ended up passing me a fastener to make it look better, to make sure that the signage looked really good. And then so everybody in the crowd, so if you can picture this, it's about midnight, a little bit after midnight. Below us, it's packed streets. They're partying, they're drinking and eating, loud music going on, and it's about city block wide of people along this one particular street. and they're looking up and they don't know what's really going on. They see our sign. I don't know if Jello shots was a normal thing in Lisbon, but they don't really know how to take it. So what I ended up doing was I ordered a beer. I motioned to Nelson for a beer, and then I had him bring it. I had him like push it over through the crowd to somebody that was below me. I used the bucket to put in the €2 for that beer. And then the guy took the money out, put the beer in, and then I pulled the bucket up. And at that point, people around me started to understand what was going on. And they were like, okay, this is really cool. And then I gave a free shot out to Nelson using the bucket as well. And then if at that point it was on, it pretty much just picked up. And our first big customer actually was the bartenders at the bar. There was one legit bar on that street. It's an awesome bar. I highly recommend it. It's called Bicanella Bar. And I'll have that on the show notes, but it's a really cool, small, quaint bar with awesome bartenders. And they were the first ones to come over and say, hey, we need 5 shots. And so I cut them a deal for 5 shots, put them in there. And then after they took it and they were happy, I knew that I was cool because I've got Nelson across the street cool. I got the bar that's happy that we're doing it. And the people that are partying are starting to understand. So Nikki and I that night, we went through about 150 shots selling them. I probably drank a few more than I should have, but it was just a blast. And the locals were so nice and accepting. And over the next 3 days, we did that. We kept selling those. And from all the profits we made, we just kind of put the money back into the town and the local road. But we did well making those shots. We had a blast because it was such a cool way for us to experience the party, because we had a chance to be in the party for a couple of hours a night. And then we'd go up to our balcony and still be a part of the party and party till 4 or 5 in the morning with everybody. And then we were kind of doing our self thing as well. So we loved it. And I tell you, as much fun as I had at the moment, I had a chance to, it reiterated the level of just the coolness and the friendships that I had on that street when we went back. So all that was June 2017. When we just went back last week, I saw all the bartenders on the street again. I went back to Bika and I saw the bartenders, and they were just so nice about it. They remembered me right away. They were so thankful. And one of the guys, he said, Matt, I tell your story all the time. He said, I cannot believe you showed up and within 2 days you had a business selling Jello shots off your balcony. He said it was the coolest thing. I was just so thankful for those guys for taking us in, and then just continue to be cool this past week that we had a chance to re-celebrate those festivities. So that's it. So Bika, it's just an amazing town to me. It'll always be, that's one of my fondest memories of our travel so far. And the people are just so inviting. And there's a lot more other activities in this amazing city besides Bika and the festivities. But that really stood out. And it was a highlight and a reason that we came back again, because we knew that it would be that type of level celebration.
Yeah, so Lisbon for me this time around was just as amazing, and I absolutely fell in love with Lisbon the first time around. So Lisbon itself, like Matt said, there's a lot of narrow and it's very hilly. There's when you walk up the streets, it's not as hilly as San Francisco per se, but there are a lot of hills. The streets are cobblestone and it just has a lot of charm. The buildings themselves a lot of them have what you would call the tile facades. Colorful. Some of them are very colorful. A lot of them are the older tiles, and I don't know how long they've been there, but a lot of them you can see are the more newer modern tiles. Like the Airbnb that we stayed in this past time, just this week, they were these pyramid shaped tiles that actually were 3-dimensional that came out of the face of the building. It's kind of hard to explain, but it wasn't the traditional blue or reddish or greenish colored tiles that you would see in Lisbon that you see in the Google photos. But yeah, a lot of tile facade buildings that you can see there. It also has the cable cars going alongside the cobblestone roads. There's local vendors that you can see standing on street corners selling their goods. There's massive cathedrals throughout the city. There's quaint little restaurants. There's also newer restaurants, more modern restaurants. There's bars, there's pastry shops. And of course, what always draws me towards the city is there's the ocean. So you can go, there's small beaches, you can take the train, or you can just take an Uber or taxi to some cities outside of Lisbon, and you can get that beach vibe too if you want to. So
Yeah, we stayed in Lisbon the first time around. I think we were only really supposed to be there, I don't know, for I think 3 or 4 days. We ended up staying there for about 2.5 weeks. And this time around, I ended up staying for about 5 days, and Matt was there for, I think, a week. So yeah, but it's full of so much to do. So this time around, we did do the St. Anthony's festivities and things, but we were there for the World Cup, and they had, which I thought was super cool, was a centralized location where you could go and actually view all the games on a really huge, large projection screen. And the place that you could do this was called the Commercio Plaza. And it's sort of like their town square, so to speak, but it was outdoors. So just a huge, large gathering space where anyone could come. It was free to do. And it was this massive, like, Jumbotron television. And outside, aligning this whole huge area were like food trucks and beer vendors and just an all around great vibe. There were also other restaurants and bars that featured themselves as sort of like a sports bar or a place that you could go and watch the games as well. And they had like either a large projection TV that would feature the games while they were playing. But in addition to that, they had other televisions too. So a bunch of smaller screens. And it was, they were serving like off of their regular food menu, or if they had a limited menu, they still were serving food that you could get. And then they'd have just the whole like beer special or drink specials, etc. And a couple of the bars that we went to that I really liked were, one was called the George, and another one was called the Couch, and it was just like a sports bar. Another thing was, so Matt had mentioned the Bica neighborhood that we stayed in last time. Another neighborhood that I really prefer is called Barrio Alto. And like during the day, the neighborhood itself is kind of just like a neighborhood you would see where people are walking around, where you can see a lot of boutique stores, and there's restaurants that are like tapas restaurants, cafes, and pastry shops. But the interesting part about this neighborhood is like at nighttime, like the street lights come on and there's tons of music outside. So it doesn't have to be per se like where, there necessarily has to be something going on. This is like 24/7, 7 days a week, 365, like no festival. Like this is just what this neighborhood is known for. So like regardless if it's St. Anthony's Festival, like this is what this neighborhood is. So during the day, it's just any normal neighborhood, but at night, it's like kind of like this party area. And I really like that about this. It's like the vibe that you get when you go there. Another thing that we did last time, we didn't do it this time, but my friend Talia went, and we didn't go with her, but it's called Park Bar. And the interesting thing about this is that this bar is located actually on the top floor of a parking garage, and it's kind of hidden. So you can just Google it and find it, but you can just take the stairwell of the parking garage. And when you get to the very top of the roof, they have this area where there's tables and chairs, etc. Kind of like, I don't know what those chairs are called, the wooden chairs that you sit in or whatever, but they're all kind of facing one way where the sun sets. But they have like a limited food menu. I think it's mainly like burgers and stuff, like high-end burgers and fries, but they have a really great cocktail menu. And a lot of people do that just to like overlook Lisbon and the bridge and the sea view. So it's a good thing to do. That's another thing that we enjoyed last time. I don't know. Did you like that, Matt?
Yeah. No,
okay. Yeah, Park Bar is nice. It is a little pricey.
Yeah, that's when you ask that. Bougie. Yeah, it's kind of more. It's definitely like more of a bougie, pricey. Yeah. It's a cool thing to do. I think the key is to get there a little bit earlier. You're going to be looking at the back of people's heads as you're trying to look at get the good angle. But I would definitely do Park Bar if they're there for multiple days to do Park Bar. But I prefer the viewpoint at Cantarina.
So the viewpoint is like, so there's all these miradors all over Lisbon, and you can watch the sunset. But the one that we really prefer to go to, it's called the Mirador Santa Catarina. And essentially what it is I don't even know how to describe it. So it's a lookout point that overlooks the sea, and it's a gathering place for people it's a public space. It's a gathering place that people just meet up a lot of people bring your own beer, bring your own wine, bring your own whatever. And local artists come, and we still haven't figured it out. I actually asked my friend Jessica, who lives there, and she wasn't sure how it works. But local artists, musicians, I should say, come and they will play their music. And it appears that they start at like a certain time, but there are like several people in rotation. So they may play some sort of like reggaeton or whatever, but then like someone will go after them, and then someone may play the guitar solo after them. So I'm not sure if they sign up online or how that works, or how someone even gets that musical spot. But it's really nice because people will come, they sit down, they have these, like, there's no grass anymore. So Jessica was telling me that a couple years ago there was grass, but now it's kind of all worn away from so many people gathering at this spot. But a lot of it is like a concrete area, and then behind it was a grassy knoll. And so now that's all gone. It's like dirt. But they have these pallets that people would normally use to move things, these wooden pallets. And so there's several of those, but obviously there's not enough of those for people to sit on. So, I mean, I would suggest to bring a blanket or a scarf or something to sit on if you don't want to, sit on the dirt. So you can go here, bring your own beer, bring a cocktail, but there are a couple of restaurants around there where you can actually purchase a cocktail, and you basically just go listen to these amazing musicians play their music, and you watch the sunset. And it's just like a gathering space to either meet people, meet up with your friends, and just kind of chill out before you go out, for the rest of your night to do whatever. And then located behind it is actually the Museum of Pharmacy. And so at that Museum of Pharmacy, they have another like sitting area where they can make cocktails and stuff too for you. But yeah, it's just a really nice place. And we've gone several times and like met up with friends or whatever before we like make plans for the rest of the night.
Yeah, Viewpoints were my favorite for sure. I did it twice while we were there this week, and just love it. It feels authentic and real. Now, if you're somebody that doesn't like mixed scents in the air, if you know what I mean, then it's probably not your spot. It's one of those things where people are doing their thing and having fun, and they're drinking drinks, but everybody's kind of maintaining their own personal conversations, and the music's playing. It's really good music. So it's in the viewpoints are amazing for photos. So if that's your vibe, if you like a little outdoor music scene that you can kind of just hang out and watch people, if you like people watching, it's so ideal. But if you can't get offended if somebody comes up to you and wants you ask you to buy something, because that's kind of the element that's there. But it's a very safe neighborhood, because this is just about a 2-minute walk from Bika, around the corner from Bika, and it's a nice little neighborhood. And then as you're leaving, just kind of to wrap up this viewpoint, as you're leaving, there's an Israeli food spot that's now open. It wasn't open a year ago, I don't believe, but we walked there and we had Israeli street food. It was so good. We had some falafel because they basically sold out everything else, but they had some really good falafel. So moving on.
And to back up a little bit, I was talking about favorite neighborhoods. I forgot to mention Alfama. That's actually my favorite neighborhood. So Alfama in itself is Lisbon's oldest neighborhood. And the way I would describe that neighborhood itself is it's like steep, winding little cobblestone streets, but the streets themselves are smaller than Bika, or smaller, more narrow than Barrio Alto. And like you almost can't even fit a car. And so like if a car were to drive by you, you would literally have to press your body up against like the side of the building that when a car is walking by. Super cool. And like all the buildings, like during the St. Anthony celebrations, like everyone has everything brightly colored, decorated. And like during the St. Anthony celebrations, that is such a great place to go and like hang out. And they have like everyone is cooking like the sardines on the grills, and there's so many stands where people have like just their own little, like there'll just be a stand and someone is just selling sangria, and it's just a great little vibe, and you could just see a lot more there. And it's also the neighborhood where the St. Anthony Cathedral and Museum are located, and so if you're into that or want to visit that's the place that you can go, and that's where all the processions are, and they have the big huge parade during the time that this is going on.
Yeah, the procession's on June 13th if you make it there. And I had a chance to sit through it again this year, and it's amazing. There had to be at least 10,000 people following the procession through the small streets like Nikki's describing through Alfama. I love this town so much because the older women of the town, they're always like poking their heads out of the windows, and they just know the vibe of the neighborhood. You can just see them, and they kind of just like smirk at you, and it's just amazing. I just love it, and they're also participating and doing their hustle too, because they're selling the gin. What's the gin? The little shot things. I forget the name of it. They sell their own little like Kool-Aid shots that they all do, but. Yeah, I had one of those, but the older ginger, it's like a ginger shot or whatever, but it wasn't that bad. But the older ladies, those are the ones that, I mean, when I say older, like the 70 to 80-year-olds, they're the ones selling this stuff for €1 a piece, having their own little business. So I just love seeing those old women that own the neighborhood. But
and like I mentioned, another thing to do is you could take the subway or metro. I've heard it called both, but it's basically just the train. There's several beaches in Lisbon along the coast that you can go to. And most recently, though, I went to one that is, so the girl that one of my friends, she lives in Lisbon now. She said you can take a mini train there, but when we got there, we did not see like where this mini train would spill out. So I recently went to a beach with Jessica and we rented a car, and apparently in Portugal, it's super cheap to rent a car. So I don't take note of that. I don't know. I didn't ask her how much it cost, but she told me it was super cheap. And we went to this beach and it was called, do you remember what it was called? Oh, it was called Praia Fonte da Telha. And it was about 30 minutes away. It was absolutely amazing. And it's just like this long sandy stretch of beach. The water was super cold and I don't know why. I mean, because it was actually hot outside, but parking was free, tons of vendors. They were selling everything from sand toys to scarves to you name it, rafts, umbrellas, beach towels outside. But when we got there, there was about 6 or 7 really nice seafront restaurants located directly on the beach. And again, they had all of the games playing on flat screen TVs that we could watch. And then you could literally just walk right outside of the restaurant. I mean, their food was super affordable. Like my lunch was €5 for everything. Like I had a drink and a sandwich. And then after I was done, I would just go and lay out on the beach with all my friends. And then we came back inside, watched some of the games and left. And again, parking was free. It was only a 30-minute drive from Lisbon. And I felt like I was in paradise, and it was just a sandy beach, super clean. And so, I mean, last time I was in Lisbon, we took the train and we went to Cascais and a couple other places like Sintra and all those places. But I was really impressed by this beach. And I don't know, there's just so many different options where you can go. So again, in Lisbon per se, they have like a tiny little beach that's located along the coast, but I really wouldn't call it a beach. And a lot of people you could just see are sitting on the concrete and kind of just sunbathing that way. But I don't know, for what it's worth, if you like the beach like me, I like to just get out and actually lay on sand and like feel like I'm on an actual beach. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know. We love Lisbon and I'd totally go back.
Yeah, and then just I guess my few last things that I would point out would be the Fado bars, Fado bar. This is it's hard to explain. It's passionate singing. I think is it always a woman that sings it? With music, but that's all we saw was passionate women singing music. But it's awesome. It's a great experience. You get dinner and they'll sing 2 or 3 songs with the music playing. It's different and unique, and you will see a lot of the advertisements or flyers for Fado around. So definitely it's something to take in while you're there if you like having music over a meal. And then the other thing, if you're there for a little bit long time, it's called Feira de Ladra. It's a flea market, and it's just north of the Alfama neighborhood. But it's on Tuesdays and Saturdays. It's a makeshift of goods. I mean, it's from books, clothing, coins, but more than just all the antique furniture type stuff that you can see. It's getting a real mix of the people and getting a sense of the locals that come and sell those things, and then also the people that are there. So from a people watching aspect, you get to interact with the locals and the neighborhood type folks. So I really enjoyed that. I went to that again this year, and that was a lot of fun. And then we'll have a list of a few of our favorite bars. My buddy Nelson has a couple bars now. They are some of my favorite bars I've ever been to in the world. And that's really it. And I think the other thing about Lisbon that we didn't mention is money goes far in Lisbon, more so than the other cities that we have visited in Europe. And so that makes you feel good when you're spending money on going out and whatnot. But also, as you're booking Airbnbs, you can get really good Airbnbs in great locations because the city is very walk friendly. I would get in probably 15,000 to 20,000 steps a day, but because it's just so easy to walk around town, We didn't even talk about the shopping in the center. I mean, there's so much shopping you can do in the center of town, whether it's high end or local stuff. But you can walk between these different neighborhoods, whether it's Alfama to Barrio Alto to Bica. And if you don't mind getting your steps in and walking a little bit and walk around along the coast, you can see so much of this gorgeous city on foot and taking the great weather that we had amazing weather last week. So that is it. And then the other part that we didn't talk, well, maybe it'll probably be a different podcast or whatever, but once you get to Portugal, you're extremely close to many other awesome places like Fatima. We did a day trip to Fatima and we went to Peniche on the coast. We took surf lessons last year there and enjoyed the coast there. And there's a lot of beautiful places when you talk about Porto. And then what's the place I think Lagos is south. People rant rave about Lagos. So once you get to Portugal, it's probably an easy flight from the States if you're coming that direction. Once you get there, a lot of people mix in Spain with the travel, but you can, like we did, we've spent a lot of time in Lisbon over the last year now, and we love it. So that is it. Thanks for listening.
We love using our Blink monitoring system while traveling the world. It's very easy to set up the system before leaving your hotel, your hostel, or your Airbnb where you're staying. We've packed one security camera for our travels. And it's really important for us to know if anyone has been in our room for the obvious reasons, but also so we just don't accuse anyone of stealing, in case we just simply misplace something. So once you leave your room, you arm the device using the Blink mobile app. It's very, very easy. And when someone moves in front of the camera sensors, it activates immediately while a bright light sends a video to your phone. We also love our Blink monitoring system to look into our home where we have 3 cameras set up, and the app will alert us to any activity that goes on while we're away. So get your Blink monitor today to feel safe while you travel and to monitor your home remotely. It's super easy to set up, it's cost-friendly, battery operated, and the Blink app can be accessed from more than one device, and you can also have up to 10 cameras on each security system, and there is no monthly fee. So check out passportjoy.com/Blink. Again, passportjoy.com/Blink to watch the ease of use and how we set up our Blink security camera system as we travel the world. Another thing we use is called Priority Pass, and we absolutely love our Priority Pass. It's just a great way for frequent travelers to gain access to airport lounges around the world. And our airport experiences have been so much more enjoyable, so we can just spend time, unwind, and relax in a priority lounge right before our flight. And the lounges are quiet, they're connected spaces where you can work or even take a quick nap and get a bite to eat. A lot of these lounges have complimentary food and beverages, alcohol, and Wi-Fi in most of the lounges. There are even lounges that have spas and showers that allow for a quick refresh after long travel days or in between your flights. We've saved a ton of money with Priority Pass by not having to purchase food in the airport before or in between our flights, and it's just a great way to kick back and relax. So join Priority Pass today. It's really affordable, and there are over 1,000 lounges in 500 cities across 130 countries. Check out passportjoy.com/pass. Again, passportjoy.com/pass to find out other membership benefits of Priority Pass. Our other tips and tools we use can be found at passportjoy.com/tools.
Okay, on this segment, we're going to talk about, it's not really a Q&A, but it's something that brought up my friend Chris that was visiting us in Portugal. We talked about the idea of sharing tables at restaurants. He said he had a great experience in southern Portugal when he was down there, and I talked to him about several experiences Nikki and I have had on the road. So I just want to bring it up on the podcast to maybe give you a thought on something you should consider, whether it's back home in the States or wherever you're listening to this too, or when you're traveling the road, because Nikki and I have had some amazing memorable times sharing tables at restaurants. So the idea was, Chris said that he went to a restaurant in Lagos, and the restaurant was packed, but they had a four-top that only had 2 people at it. They had a couple of men at the table from Germany. And so Chris and his girlfriend had a chance to meet them and sit at the table and share dinner with them. And so Chris said, yeah, we'll do that. Let's jump on it. So they ended up sitting in there next to him, and they had an amazing experience. And Chris said that I think they exchanged information, and they got a chance to know a whole lot more about Germany. And he said the guy was basically like, could have been an advocate for German tourism, how good he was at selling his town. And then when Chris brought this up to me, I said, dude, Nikki and I have had the chance to do that several times on our stay. And I kind of talked to him about a few of those places. For me, the couple memorable moments for me that stood out were we were in Da Nang, Vietnam. As you guys might know, it's one of our favorite spots, but we were out getting a dinner one night that only had a four-top available, and Nikki and I and then these 2 brothers from the States arrived at the same time, and they were attempting to shift apart the table. And I said, don't even worry about it. Let's all just sit together. And the other guy agreed. And we ended up hitting it off with those 2 guys. One brother was from California. The other brother lived on the East Coast. And we hung out with them, had dinner with them, got a chance to hear about their experience traveling Southeast Asia. And then we told them about our story. And then we ended up bar hopping that entire night for about the next 3 hours or so, just getting to know those guys and hanging out and hearing their story. Another situation we had, we were in Vienna, and Nikki and I, we love Ethiopian restaurants. And I found this amazing. There was only 2 Ethiopian restaurants in the whole city of Vienna, and one of them had tremendous ratings, so good ratings that I was like, man, we got to go see this place. And we get there later at night. I think we got there like 9 or so at night, and it was outside of town. So it was not in Vienna proper, but it was out near one of the neighborhoods on the outskirts. Which to me was even better, because then we got away from some of the touristy stuff, and we go into this local Ethiopian restaurant, and it's packed. There's nowhere to sit. And I told the guy that had called him earlier, I think he kind of remembered, but didn't. And as we were telling him that we had there's 2 of us, there was another couple that was sitting at the bar that were locals, and you could see that they were kind of like, no, we're ahead of them type thing. And then about 10 minutes later, the owner came over and said, hey, we only have that 4-top. Would you guys want to split it? And of course, Nikki and I were like, yeah, let's do it. And they were cool enough to say, let's do it as well. And we shared a meal with them. And the guy was an artist, a local artist that made like these, insects out of scrap metal, which was extremely unique and rare and really cool. So we talked to him about that a bunch. And his girlfriend was extremely fiery. I'll put it that way. She was borderline off the hook, but fiery, fun, and just full of energy, and had an opinion on everything. And it made the conversations extremely vibrant and intense in times. And they were this weird dynamic of a couple where he was kind of like this quiet, creative artist, and she was this fiery, very vocal woman. And it was a lot of fun though, because we had a chance to talk about our experiences, and they had a viewpoint on that. And so that was another type of experience, much different than the brothers we met, but still very positive and a lot of fun, and one that we walked away. I think I definitely befriended the artist on Instagram, and I still look at his different art that he puts out there. And then Nikki's got one from our time in Hanoi.
In Hanoi, Matt and I had gone out for Thanksgiving dinner, and we had been eyeing this spot we wanted to get a hot pot in. And so we went there, and their style of seating was indoors, but at like picnic table style of seats. And they were fairly small. And when you get a hot pot, it kind of takes up the whole tabletop. And so we had already had our food be brought out, and this couple walked in, and the whole place was packed. And not because it was Thanksgiving, just because the place was packed. I mean, they don't really celebrate Thanksgiving in Vietnam. But we said, no worries, you guys can sit here. And so we're like trying to like carefully move over our flaming hot pot. And they were like, no worries, don't worry about it. And we were like, no, just let us move over all of our bowls in this big flaming pot, and you can sit next to us. So it ended up being an amazing night. The girl was from South Carolina. I forget where the guy was from, but she was doing somewhat of a similar thing to us, where she was traveling for an extended period of time. And she had gotten an extended visa in Vietnam for 90 days as opposed to the standard 30. And we had just wonderful conversations that night, and we actually closed the restaurant down. And it was just fun to have someone to sit with at Thanksgiving dinner and just hear about their travel stories. So it was awesome.
Yeah. So I think overall, the reason I wanted to bring it up, and as I was talking to Chris about it, I'm not sure it's the first thing you think about if you live in the States, that you would share a table, unless you lived in I think some of the bigger cities do it more often. If you're looking at Manhattan or maybe Chicago or LA, they do sit the tables closer together because real estate is so expensive. So they have to get as many tables as they can in there. But when you look at other parts of America, it's one of those things where you want to be away from people sometimes in restaurants so you can have your own conversation and not have people hearing what you're saying. But I think that if you're open to the idea and you want to put a new wrinkle into your travel experience, this is a great way to do it. So if you go to a restaurant and it's packed and you see 4 tops with only 2 people on it, and you're not celebrating your 10-year wedding anniversary or something super special, and you're just trying to have a nice, fun, unique way out, I think that it's one of those situations where you can join another table and have a blast, walk away with great memories, and it can add something different to what you're doing. And I think you can even try this back at home too. I think it's something you could do at your hometown. It's just a really cool way to meet people and stop being a stiffy and hear new stories and create a new life experience. So that's just an idea for some of you. It might not be the best, but I think you should try it. Be fun. And that is it for this episode. Thanks again for listening. Really appreciate it. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, on whatever app you're using to listen to the podcast. This really helps Nikki and I get in front of new listeners that might not be aware of our story. It helps because it moves us up the rankings. So more subscribers means more importance of a podcast. That's why it's important to subscribe. So if you like the podcast, please do that. Really appreciate it. And also, thank you so much for the people that are leaving reviews, like this one left on Apple Podcasts from Ryan in Las Vegas. I've known Nikki and Matt for over 10 years now, and they are 2 of my closest friends, and the term friend doesn't even come close to our relationship. They have so much incredible insight on what this beautiful world has in store, and anyone that has dreams and aspirations as they did should listen and follow closely as they did and go for it. I couldn't be more happy for their amazing journey and to take the leap of faith to create and follow their dreams. Thank you so much, Ryan. Really appreciate it. Appreciate taking the time to write all that, and I appreciate our friendship so much. We had an unbelievable time in Saigon not too long ago, and we're really hoping to see Ryan again on our travels. So really appreciate you doing that. As I said earlier, you can follow along on our weekly newsletter that comes out on Thursdays by signing up at passportjoy.com for our newsletter. And that from there, also on the website, you'll see blog posts, travel tips and tools, and our social media links. And all the show notes from today are on the website as well under the podcast link. The show notes are important because those are the links. Obviously, I mentioned some bars. We mentioned some of the viewpoints in Lisbon, some of the locations within Lisbon. And so all those links are there, easy for you to use, because we say a lot of things, and instead of you writing all kinds of notes down, you can just go to the website and click on these things and create your own, travel experiences in the future if you're thinking about going to Lisbon or other places. So the show notes for all of our episodes are there on the website. So please check those out. All right, we'll be back to you next week talking about our time here in Bucharest, Romania. And then, like I said before, we're going to Poland for a couple weeks after this. Then we're off to Switzerland and Estonia. And then by the time fall rolls around, we'll be in Japan and hanging out in Southeast Asia. So please continue to tune in. Check those things out. We'll continue to share our stories as we go around the world.